Okay, I'm gonna try again. Welcome to Stories Around the Fire. Tonight's guest is Martha Elaine Belden. She is a writer and editor based in Dallas who I had the pleasure of meeting during one of her um, stints with Art Conspiracy. She was serving as the editorial and creative director there. She collaborates with an array of different visual artists, from painters to photographers to models to hair and makeup artists to makers. The list goes on. She writes articles and promotes some of Dallas's most treasured people and places, giving her a wealth of knowledge and experience in the creative world. And I'm going to add her right now. Hey, Regina. Hey, Mom. We got it. How are you?
Good, how are you? Sorry, I tried to use my laptop, but it didn't happen.
No,
Did it
it's
happen?
okay. That's all right. Thank you so much for being here. How have you been with everything going on?
I'm alive.
Good enough.
Yeah, definitely
So,
better off than a lot. I understand that. So,
yeah. I'll go ahead and jump right into everything because I know everybody likes when we do the storytelling and the game. So, is that cool with you? Are you cool to tell a story at the end and play a little game?
sure. I don't know about the story. I'll try to think of something.
Okay. All right. So, what sort of work do you do? Like, what sort of writing do you do for your work and then for like your personal, you know, outlet?
Well, actually, for work, I'm an editor. I wrote for about 10 years. I wrote for magazines.
Wow.
I've ghostwritten stuff, but for mostly I just wrote for magazines. And then I don't know. When it comes to when you're a writer, you just kind of take whatever comes. So I've written a lot of things professionally, just sort of whatever I could find work doing. And then now I've been working for the last a little over 6 months, I guess close to 8 months, with a company called Essilor. It's the world's largest eyeglasses and contact lens, that kind of stuff. They make all that stuff. So
Cool.
like based in France, and I'm part of a little digital acceleration team here in Dallas. We work for the whole global, but we're a tiny little team here in Dallas, and I edit copy. We have a website called All About Vision, which is basically like WebMD but for eye care.
Oh, very
So,
cool.
hi Della. Sorry, one person I know joined. um, but yeah, so I do editing. There's only two of us who edit all of the copy for the entire website, and so it's very fast paced, very very busy, but I love it. I
Good.
kind of writing professionally sort of got me burnt out on my own writing, so
Really?
I liked switching to editing a few years ago. So
That's cool.
yeah,
That's a cool job. It sounds like it.
it's one of those things. I feel like it sounds cooler than it is. It's not really
Oh, really?
fun to hear about it because I'm just fixing words, like making sure everything's written coherently, and um, I definitely think I'm good at it, so that's enjoyable.
Good. They seem to, right?
Yeah.
Was there a point in your life when like you knew that like writing and everything that comes with it, like editorial, that was for sure what you wanted to do? Like were you in college and or did you go into college knowing
No,
this is what
I don't really ever know what I want to do at any given moment. I have always been good at that, and I actually changed my major 9 times when I got to college.
wow.
And I still made it out in 4.5 years. So, uh,
Nice.
but I just kept going back to English. The only reason I didn't do English right out of the gate was because I didn't want to be a teacher. And
Hmm.
I kind of thought for a long time that that's kind of the only thing you can do with an English degree. Um, and finally just decided, after changing my major so many times, that it would just be wiser to just do what I'm good at and then figure it out from there. And then I've just kind of been lucky, um,
Nice.
because I know a lot of people do get degrees like that. And I mean, writing is one of those things where it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, everything needs writers.
Hmm.
It never stops being necessary in some way. But at the same time, it still seems difficult sometimes, mostly because I think most people think that they don't want to write, or that's not what they're interested in unless it's something they want to write. And so you kind of
Right.
just have to face it that you're going to have to write a lot of stuff you just don't care about,
Right.
and just kind of be okay with that. So, which was hard for me, and it's always been hard for me because I'm stubborn and I want to do what I want to do, and but I also like to be employed and independent. So
Right.
I just push through, and finally now I feel like I'm getting to what I want to do. And then of course I kind of also fairly quickly realized there's lots of ways to do what you love, even if you can't. Like I get to do what I love with my job, but even if it's not exactly focused in a way that I love, I can find other outlets. Like you mentioned earlier, our conspiracy, that was a huge gift to find that. And it was sort of a happy accident. I happened to be looking for a job sitting at the counter at Oddfellows, and Erica Felicello, the ArtCon executive director at the time, pulled up a chair next to me that hadn't met, and she introduced herself, and we just started chatting because both of us are very outgoing. And as soon as I mentioned I was a writer, she was like, "Shouldn't have told me that," and brought me on board, and then
Snatched you up, huh?
I stayed with it for 6 years, and um, it was awesome. That's actually how I met Della, who I said hi to earlier. Um, a lot of the people who will forever be part of my life, I met through that organization, and
Yeah, very
it's
cool.
an incredible group. So anyway, that kind of veered off of what you asked me, but anyway,
No,
that's how I talk.
that's awesome. So did you come from a creative family, or are you like the oddball?
Both. um, my dad is a veterinarian professionally, and my mom is actually now a librarian, but growing up, she wasn't. Well, I don't know. Anyway, she's a librarian, but she's definitely more on the science end. She got her initial degree in research science from A&M, and wanted to be a scientist. So, and then again, like I said, my dad's a veterinarian, but my dad is very creative too. He's an artist, and actually have like pieces of his art hanging around my house, and I and my family are big readers. I guess that's probably more where it came from than whether or not anyone was creative. My house growing up was just literally, there wasn't a flat surface anywhere in the entire house that didn't have a book on it or a stack of books. Um,
Great.
and I was obsessed with reading from like age 3. So I just always, and reader, I mean, if you're going to be a good writer, you have to be a reader. There's no
Yeah.
other way to do it. But anyway, that was a long answer to your question. But yeah. Oh, and then I guess my brother and sister are both creative as well. My brother's a lawyer, but um, he's creative in his own ways. And then my sister is kind of a permanent student. She just can't stop going to school, getting multiple degrees. And almost all of them are in something: writing, editing, linguistics, art, history, like all sorts of stuff. So, um, but I'm also sort of black sheepish. I'm the only one with like weird colored hair and tattoos and
Nice.
piercings and all that stuff. And um, it's funny because that stuff doesn't seem oddball, but in my family, it somewhat is. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think a lot of families, yeah. So you said earlier that you just kind of randomly met up with Erica from Art Conspiracy, because you guys are both pretty outgoing and it was super easy to strike up the conversation and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy for you. I feel like when you are looking for a creative occupation that you have to network a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's like not easy for everybody. Is that easy for you though?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, people have told me most of my adult life, if I could get paid to just be a social butterfly, or in the business world, if you want to call it network, I mean, networking is the better word for it. I just kind of naturally network, but I don't think about it that way. I think that actually might be part of why I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would be good at it if I had that intent. Like if I went into meetings or public, whatever, outings, anything, if I went into it thinking like, oh, I'm here to network and I'm gonna try to meet people so that I can get something,
Right.
like maybe make a job connection, or um, meet some people who can get me a job connection through that. I don't know, whatever. I don't know that I
Right.
would be as good at it because then I would be preoccupied. I just really love learning about people, and I like meeting people. I like people. I love people. So um,
Right.
I think I just naturally become a networker because I remember people. I love to get to know them and then keep in touch. I'm really good at keeping in touch, and I think a lot of people aren't good at that either. They
Yeah.
either think that they are going to be too much, like they don't want to come across as needy or like
Right.
overbearing. And I definitely have like that voice in my head sometimes. It's like, shut up, leave that person alone. But I still, the other part of me always overpowers that part, and I end up not really caring that much, and I'll just, but it works out for me because I have a lot of connections, and but I also think that they last because I don't go into them thinking I want something out of this.
Right. It's an
In fact, I
organic
probably use my connections more to get other people things, and I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I love connecting other people. Like when I find out somebody's looking for this, that, or the other, being like, oh my gosh, I know like 4 people who might work for you, might be able to help you find something in that or whatever. And so I really like that, and I like supporting the endeavors and creativity of people that I know and care about. So
Yeah, yeah, I think that's really awesome. And I do think like when you think too hard about, or when you have like the intention, like you said, it kind of changes. You can, I feel like you can tell when people aren't being like super authentic,
yeah. Well, and I
You
think if you just have that pressure on yourself, like, oh my gosh, I've got to be impressive because I want this person to maybe
right.
hire
You
me
can see
or
it.
to remember me as impressive so that they can introduce me to someone else, like then it always feels like you have to be on. Whereas if you just like meeting people, you can make it about that other person and just take the pressure off. You just be yourself, because you're just looking at it as like, these are people
They're just people.
just like me, and we're just
Right.
talking and chatting and talking about mutual interest, or learning something new from someone that you don't have that much in common with, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I feel like if people just kind of loosened up and didn't look at things like that so much as like take the pressure off themselves, and also not come across as like just looking for somebody to get something from. So
Right. Yeah.
like, now I feel like I'm doing a good job interview.
No.
No, not because
I'm
of you,
sorry, that was
because
a
of the way
terrible
I'm
question.
talking about it.
No. So you said, you liked connecting people. So you're kind of like an advocate for like local creative people. You collect art from local artists.
Oh, I do, definitely.
Mm.
My house is, I would take a little tour, but it's a disaster. My house is super messy. But I mean, you can even see, I don't know why I moved, but like there's like both
Yeah.
of those are art con pieces. And then that's a picture of Leonard Cohen by a friend of mine who's a high school art teacher, and a 16-year-old drew that with pencil of Leonard Cohen. And there's like some other, I mean, yeah, I have a
I
lot of
know.
art and some more stuff over there. I have more in other places, but I'm hesitant to show because my house is so messy.
That's awesome.
But
Um, you also support local music. I've seen on your Instagram.
yeah,
So are you just for, like growing like community? Because I kind of feel like that's, part of the art conspiracy thing. Like they're very, community. Is that something that has like always been with you, or did you kind of like grow into that?
I think it's something that I just discovered that I do naturally, because it wasn't something, again, it was kind of in the same vein as that networking thing. Like I
Mhm.
just really like get to know someone and decide I really, you know, value who they are or enjoy things about them or have a lot in common. I just make a lot of friends, and I like introducing them to each other because I think, oh, I met this person, they have stuff in common.
Right.
They should be friends. And so I just I like to be part of a community, and but it just kind of happens naturally. It wasn't. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know, it was like you spun for a little bit, so I didn't know if my phone
Oh,
was.
did I? No, it's good. You're good.
But yeah, so I have the art and music thing sort of also was an accident. I've always liked both things quite a bit. Um, but honestly, I don't even know really how it started. Most of my friends are either artists of some kind or musicians. And so it wasn't even one of those things, like it was never a thing. Like I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, Martha, she's a big advocate for local, for local creatives. And she wants to be part of the creative scene to try to get artists and musicians promoted and I there are people who are, that's like their focus, and that's like Erica Felicello is a huge like inspiration, because that's like her whole life calling, I feel like, is just being an advocate and a supporter of local artists and getting people's voices heard. I just, if I meet someone and think their voice should be heard, I just tell everyone about it. And it's not anything that I think of as like, oh, I'm doing this thing, or like I'm an advocate. I just like people and want other people to hear them if I think they're really cool. And so ArtCon did end up fitting really well. Like ArtCon was the first thing that was like me actively pursuing something that was like bolstering local arts and and music and stuff like that. But it also made me realize that that is a community that can be another community to be a part of. And so I mean, I love my experience, and you know, they always say once an ArtCon or not an ArtCon. By they, I mean ArtConners. It's weird to say they generically as though like the whole world talks about ArtCon, but yeah, we always say like once you're part of ArtCon, you're always part of ArtCon. So I'm not on the executive team anymore. I stepped down after the last big event, and it's a wonderful organization to be part of, and I'm so grateful for all my time there. And I might go work for them again at some point, but it's kind of nice to pass it on to see some younger people with newer ideas. And so anyway, but yeah, I do love local art and music, and I also love not local art and music.
Right.
I love all, but I have developed a passion for reminding people that you don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to be an art collector. There are local artists who want their stuff sold, and like, yeah, anyway, there's like really ways normal people can own a lot of art. I mean, my house is literally like covered. I don't have a wall space that doesn't have a piece of art by a local artist. And so, and I'm not wealthy by anybody's standards. So, anyway,
That's awesome.
also,
That was awesome. I love to see like I went to two art cons and I mean that's probably my favorite. I went to like what was it, Pancakes and Booze. I went to one of those. And I mean it was cool, but I really love like the art con. I don't know, it was just
there's something very, very different about
Mhm.
what ArtCon does and the way they do it. The whole grassroots nature of it, not to use a really buzzwordy word, but it's just really, sorry, there we go. I don't know, it's very homegrown. It's very I mean, it's literally one of the only organizations of its kind where every single person who does anything for ArtCon is a volunteer. No one's paid.
Right.
And a lot of hours. I mean, it's a lot of work.
And that's love, that's a
Yeah.
labor of love.
Yeah. And literally every single thing about it is local. We even look for local venues. Obviously but like venues that are in up and coming neighborhoods. And by venues, I mean, we turn things that are like, don't exist into venues, like empty warehouses. And we bring, awareness or whatever into neighborhoods sometimes
Yeah.
just by having our event there, because you're like, oh wow, I never really came to this part of town that much. And
Right.
so I feel like ArtCon has helped push a lot of development maybe forward through making people aware of these really cool, like niche little neighborhoods that are really cool, but people might not have noticed before.
Mhm.
And then also just like, I mean, literally every single thing is done like by just volunteer people, just running around doing out whatever we can and learning along the way, because it's very much a constant, like, flying by the seat of our pants, just figuring out as we go. So it's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. And it's just in every way, it's unique. It's amazing. It's a really cool organization. So
Yeah. It was a great experience. I will say, my daughter did it
mhm.
last year before last.
I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. And she was super nervous and you came up to her and you talked to her and it was so sweet and she was like, oh, like she
Yeah.
felt, comfortable
we
then.
I know we love our kid artists. Is so that's one, again, another thing that I feel like makes ArtCon really unique, is that there's no age limit. You have to already be an established artist. We have people who've never never done art before of any kind, but they just want to. And so they, sign up. If they put their name in for the drawing, then they have just as good of a chance as anybody else to get drawn and get to be part of the auctions. And it's really cool. And because we have so many, that doesn't negate the fact that we're also getting to like advocate for established artists. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah. It is super awesome. So other than ArtCon, you've worked on some different projects with artists outside of there.
Mm-hmm.
You have worked with, I believe I'm getting this right. I tried to do some research. You've worked with like models before, right?
Just a little bit. Mostly, that's pretty much all through Julia McCullough, who owns a fashion line called McCullough. She formerly called Folksy, and she has a little store here in Bishop Arts called Harkins Back. And she's just an incredible local designer. She was also part of ArtCon. That's how I met her. Lots of connections through ArtCon, but yeah, she hires me to do as much writing as I have availability for as she needs. And so through that, she also was the founder and I don't know what word to use, I guess. I'm trying to think. Event designer, I don't know, for an event called Pen Show for 10 years, which was a huge Dallas fashion show, annual fashion show for local fashion designers. And it also featured local live musicians as part of the event. And so whenever she would have that event coming up, it was only the last 2 or 3 years, I think, that she brought me on the team. And on the team, I didn't help with anything except interviewing writers and writing little short, and it wasn't even really the models. It was more the designers. I think I might have done a few interviews with some models, but for the most part, it was about the fashion designers themselves. And then through that, I made some connections through that, and then have worked with a couple of makeup artists and hairstylists who primarily work with models. And so I've done some website writing and stuff like that for some of those creatives as well.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you have like a spectrum of different creative people that you've worked with.
Pretty
What
much. Yeah. As far as like, I've written about musicians, I've written about artists, I've written about fashion designers and makeup artists and hair, like again, hair designers hair designer. I guess that actually could work because for models, they do a little more creative. But yeah, it's one of those things that I feel like it's an ever growing. I'm trying to think how to word it. It's just a process of always kind of reminding oneself and others that like all of these things are different, but every one of those people is an artist. Because it's really hard for me. I always protested whenever people would call me an artist because I was like, no, I'm a writer. And actually, Erica and some other people that I met through ArtCon were the first people who were like, stop saying that writers are artists as well. And so, and I like that also about ArtCon is that they call everyone their artists, including their musicians. That because that was a big part of every ArtCon show as well. As there were always at least 2 or 3 bands for each event, and all local. And anyway, so it's cool to think of that. Like, that's why I usually tend to just say like I've done a lot of writing for artists, even though there is a spectrum of kinds of artists. But anyway.
Right, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like really good experiences. What has been your favorite project, do you think, or could you judge them that way?
I'm trying to think. Oh
Was
yeah,
it
I
a
guess
loaded question?
Paxton Maroney is a local photographer and photo retoucher. I think is kind of how she describes what she does. But I always think of her as like a surrealist photographer. Like everything she does is photographs that she takes with her camera, and they're beautiful and incredible. And then she retouches them and sometimes combines photos or like, layers them, and she does all sorts of things. But she creates this really incredible imagery, and she did a series of photographs throughout Joshua Tree and then I think some other parts of California. And then she had hired, I think she talked to a guy about writing, helping her. She was turning into a photo book, and she talked to a guy about helping her write like a story kind of thing to go with the photos. And it just didn't work out. It didn't end up being what she was looking for. And so she kind of asked me on literally the day that she needed, like it was already being
Oh my
printed.
goodness.
Like, and so she had like a 4 hour window that she was like, if you happen to have time, I know this is outlandish and crazy, but can you help me? And this is not something that I would heavily advertise that I can do, because it was probably, she caught me on a good day, but I had a few hours and somehow my brain kicked in. I've always been really inspired by her work anyway, but I wrote the book. I mean, by wrote, it's like a poem. And so
Nice.
every page only has like one line on it and it goes with photographs. But that was really, really fun because it was very challenging and very quick. And she ended up loving it, which was great, because it could easily have been like, oh,
Right.
this still isn't what I'm looking for. And because that her alternative was just to print the book with just her photos.
Mhm.
Hi, Jen. Anyway, sorry, another friend of mine.
Yeah.
um, but that was awesome to get to do that, and then get to kind of see these books with these beautiful photographs in them with my words.
Yeah.
And so that was probably the coolest.
Yeah.
If I had to narrow it down to one thing, it was really cool.
That
And the
sounds
book
really.
is beautiful.
Now I want to check it out. I'm totally going to check it out. So you've been involved in the Dallas art scene for a while. Um,
Yes.
what would you say are like challenges that artists face? I know there's lots of good that comes out of Dallas and everything, but
Mhm.
um, I don't know, like I feel like recently, and maybe it's just because I'm just now, I moved here not that long ago, and I'm just now like getting my bearings with like the good little, the gems.
Yeah,
Um, but I feel like Deep Ellum Art Co. I think is what it's called. Open what last year, maybe the year before.
maybe. I don't really know. I don't have a whole lot of experience with that.
Yeah, like I don't know. Are there places for artists here, do you think, or
um well, I think, I mean, there's definitely like smaller galleries and stuff that are like, that's their focus, is to be like, Kettle Art Gallery is definitely always my go-to as far as encouraging local artists if they want to start getting their work in, like, in a gallery. Frank and
Mhm.
Paula are just incredible advocates, like, just, I mean, two of the greatest advocates in Dallas, I think, for local artists and um, getting art in front of people.
Mhm.
And I think honestly that's probably the biggest challenge. And I don't think that's like a Dallas thing necessarily. I think that's just in general. Like, sorry, my cat jumped into my lap.
That's fine.
um, but yeah, I think just getting art in front of people is a challenge. I mean, and I mean, I feel like that kind of goes without saying. I feel like it's kind of an obvious thing to say, but I think that trying to get art in front of people who don't know, awareness, like getting your name out there, getting people to recognize and understand that you're taking yourself seriously, like that you're not just doodling for fun, um,
Right.
or whatever it is. And then also being taken seriously, that like art is worth, it's worth people spending their money on. Like, I feel like a lot of creatives and across every genre really have a hard time with people that they know really well, whether it be friends or family or people that they just come in contact with, wanting free things from them, like just not having any respect for the fact that like a lot of work goes into creating that piece of work or that music or doing hair or makeup or whatever it is, like whatever it is that these artists specialize in. um being respected, that is work, it is work for them and they deserve to be paid for their time. I think that's a struggle, probably, and again, not just in Dallas, just in general. I think
Yeah.
local artists in particular, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that you're doing something fun, like,
Right.
do it for me at my party, or give me a painting for my house, or whatever it is. Like, just being taken seriously, I think, is probably difficult for a lot of artists, especially just when they're just getting started.
Yeah. I think that's pretty on point. What would your dream collaboration or project be? Like if you could just jump into anything right now.
Oh my gosh, that's really hard. Honestly, actually, I saw my friend Anne joined, and there's something that I've always talked about with him, that he's a musician, and we have a lot in common as far as musicians that we really love. And we've talked about like our dream, like setting up concerts. Like if we could have our dream, like we would have these bands on the same bill and have them in X, Y, or Z venue. And so like if that was something that someone just like trusted me and was like, sure, you're good at that. Like we just
Right.
trust you because I have no experience. That would be awesome to get to like, just kind of play God for a while with like you two bands. You guys play at this venue together and it'll sell out, I promise. And, I think that would be, I don't know if that counts as an answer to
Yeah,
what you asked.
totally.
That would be
Absolutely.
amazing.
So, have you been writing anything outside of work? You said that, you know, you kind of already answered it, but I guess for any like writers who watch, with everything going on, it's just I feel like everybody's just kind of like work home or working from home,
Yeah.
and I don't know how everyone else's creative juices are flowing or not.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah.
I know some people have been extremely creative throughout this period, and I'm jealous. Because I know that that's like this has stirred up and it's given them time. It's given them, like so much is going on in the world beyond just the pandemic. And so it's given everybody a lot of time to like do nothing but think about that and dwell on it and talk to their friends about it and read and see the news and that kind of thing. And really dwell on all these crazy things that are going on in the world. And so a lot of creativity has come through that. Also, relationships have been kind of strained because everybody's kind of stuck together and also kept apart, like both and so through that, I think some people have taken that and just run with it and come up with some really incredible, writing songs or creating art or whatever it is. I, on the other hand, have done nothing but watch a lot of television.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about all I do.
No,
Um,
I feel
so
that.
I
I
have
mean,
not written anything in a long time, I have to admit. I wish I could, part of me wishes I could be that person that just lies and like, I've written like 15 poems and stories, but I haven't done anything.
I've been writing every day for
Yeah,
hours.
I use the excuse and it's valid in a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, it's really just, I could force myself if I really, wanted to overcome my laziness and other things, but I read all day. I'm an editor. I literally read from the minute I wake up until I sign off for the day. I read all day and fix things and rewrite things. And so I just have no interest. I don't even read anymore and I love reading. So I just feel like I've sort of lost all of that, even in the midst of this pandemic when I have all the time in the world. And I'm like, I could read all my books right now. And I don't read any of them.
Mhm.
I'm like, what's on TV?
Mhm.
So yeah. What
Yeah.
else can I binge?
What have you been watching on TV?
Oh man. Well, right now I'm watching West Wing again.
Mhm.
I watch that every, I don't know, every few years, every several years. I don't know how often. I guess this is like my third or fourth time to watch it, but I love it. It makes me cry a lot and wish that the world could ever have, um, politicians who were actually that way. But, it's a very idealistic,
Right.
if
I've never.
only kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what came over me, but I think I just watched all the things that were like on my radar. But I watched the Golden Girls
Oh, I did
and
too.
waited.
I watched all of Golden Girls. I watched all of Designing Women.
I
This was
was
the
just
one.
gonna say I also watched Designing Women. Oh my gosh, yes. No, but it was so good. I was so into Designing Women. I was like, oh my gosh,
Well, I
how was
grew up
this?
watching both of those with my mom and my grandmother. And so I had never watched them all in a row, obviously, but
Yeah.
I definitely had some fun with, just catching up, like nostalgia. I've watched a lot of nostalgia stuff. And then
Yeah.
I watched Umbrella Academy. Um,
Oh yeah, that's the
and
first
I've
thing I
watched, oh my
watched.
gosh, I've seen so many things. We just finished watching The Witcher. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to,
It's a great show.
yeah, there's just so much. I've watched so much TV. It's stupid.
All of the things,
Yeah.
all of the
Which I just
like.
rewatched all of Alias before I started West Wing. Um, but yeah, I have shows that I watch here by myself, which are all of those kinds of things that are very nostalgic. And then I like my boyfriend likes to watch kind of like things that neither of us have ever seen before. So we try to find shows that we both haven't watched and we watch those when I'm with him. So I go back and forth between watching old school stuff that I've seen a million times when I'm home and then
Right.
watching that other stuff when I'm with him. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they need to come out with some more series because I think I've just gone through everything on Netflix at least. So,
yeah.
okay, so tell me about your cats.
Okay. Well, I have five of them. I had seven. Two of them passed away earlier this year, but they were very old. So Arwen and Chandler were my ones that passed away earlier this year, and then now I have. I'm trying to think. Okay, I'll go in order. Eliza Jane is my oldest. She is named after a Nick Cave song. Um, then I have Atticus, and he's obviously To Kill a Mockingbird. And then I have Dali, named after Salvador Dali. And then I have Louise and Winston, who are little siblings, and they are tiny and adorable and 1 year old. And they're named after Bob's Burgers and New Girl. So Louise
Oh,
for Bob,
cute.
Winston from New Girl. I think that was, did I miss one? I feel like no, I got them all. That was all of them.
So, do you rescue these cats or
Yes, they're
how
all
do you get
rescues.
them?
They're all rescues except, well, sort of. So Eliza Jane was, I got her from a friend who technically is who rescued her. She was, all, it's a very sad story. Can that count as my story? She was,
Yeah.
my friend was driving during that, a really big freeze that we had about 7 years ago, you know, where all of Dallas like turned to blown glass. I don't know if you've been in Dallas long enough to have experienced that, but it was a crazy freeze.
Yeah.
And my friend was driving right as it was kind of starting to thaw and noticed several dead kittens frozen to frozen to the highway under a bridge. And he pulled over to make sure there was nothing he could do. There was also a dead dog on the side of the road. And so he
Wow.
pulled over, and this little kitten crawled out from under the dog. She had crawled under the dog and kept alive. And so they rescued her and then called me, and then I took her, and somebody had to amputate her tail. And my dad, when he amputated her tail, said that someone had clearly thrown her by her tail. So someone probably
Oh,
drove and threw those kittens. So it's a bittersweet story because the rest of them died tragically. And she definitely had a very rough start, but
yeah.
she is really great now.
Gosh.
Um, and then Atticus, I got from a friend who they had a cat who kind of showed up and then had kittens, and so they doled out the kittens, and I got him. And then Dolly I got from the shelter, and then Louisa and Winston just showed up at my house.
They heard word on the street.
So yeah, and I mean they instantly. I have a few, like there are a few strays that I feed daily, and none of them let me pet them or like anywhere come near them. But these two just like, I mean, they were probably 4 months old, and they just instantly like followed me everywhere I went. Like the day that it took me about an hour to get them to let me pet them the first time, but after that they were just like, "Oh, you're our person now."
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that was a sad beginning to your story, but a really great end.
Yes.
Um, so if you want, it looks like we have 15-ish minutes. It probably won't take us that long to play this. Maybe it will. So I have a game. It's kind of like, I think it's kind of like categories.
Okay.
Um,
I know I played that game when I was a kid, but I do not remember it.
okay, so like I'm gonna give you a category. It's not totally like that. I know it's not, but I think it might be like it. But I'll give you the rules. If you still want to play when I give you the rules. Okay, so I'll give you a category and then you'll have around 5 seconds. I don't have a timer, so we'll just, to name something that falls into that category, but there's a catch. Whatever you name must begin with the same first letter of the category. For
Okay.
instance, if I say food, you could say fries or froyo,
Okay.
since both begin with an F. Proper nouns and names with multiple words can include answers beginning with another letter as long as at least one word begins with the same letter as the category. For
Okay.
instance, if I say book, you could say beach house, even though not both of those, right? Okay. I put examples on here in case I couldn't think of anything, in case neither of us could, but I figure you can. All right, the first one is beverage,
Bourbon.
mammal,
Moose.
city,
Chicago. I almost say California. Wait, that's a state.
movie,
Oh my gosh. It's on my head. It's on the tip of my brain. I can't think of it. I need to just My Fair Lady.
Animal.
Aardvark.
Occupation.
Ophthalmologist.
Restaurant.
Rezus. I'm really sad that that's what I named because I hate that restaurant, but yeah.
Country.
Cuba. Is that a country? That's a country. Yeah. That was
Yeah, I
sorry.
think so. Furniture.
Futon.
Nice. President.
I'm sure there is one.
There's
But
two.
it's
There's
probably,
only two.
oh, then I don't know that one. Probably. I'm not very good at those things.
No, I had to look it up because I couldn't think of anything either. It was Pierce and Polk.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Fruit.
Huh?
Fruit.
Fruit. Then F. I feel like the Spanish word for fresca is right. Isn't that for like strawberry? Um, but I know it's not. It probably doesn't count.
It can count.
Huh?
It
Okay.
can count. Color.
Chartreuse.
Ooh. Actor.
Adam Scott.
Nice. Actress.
Alicia Silverstone.
Nice. Candy.
Candy.
Mhm.
Chocolate, I guess.
Desert.
Oh, a desert?
Hmm.
I don't know the names of deserts, I don't think. I don't know that one.
The only one that came up was Death Valley, which is kind
Uh,
of
that makes sense.
flower.
Hmm. I don't know that I know the name of enough flowers to know that. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Are there a lot with F?
I don't think so, because I think there was only like three or four that came up. And I put foxglove.
Okay, cool.
Holiday.
Hanukkah.
Nice. Author.
Anne Lamott.
Musician.
Metallica.
Hobby.
Humming.
Awesome. That was awesome. That's what I got. That's awesome. You know them all. So where can people find your work if someone wanted to just check you out, or if someone wanted to hire you for something? Where can people find you or your work?
I do have a website called marthaelainebelden.work. That's just a portfolio. It doesn't have, I mean, it's definitely more my work related writing.
Mhm.
But it does have links to ArtCon things that I've written and some of the stuff like about the fashion stuff and whatever. And then I also have a blog that I used to write. I haven't written on it in years. It's notionsonbeing.blogspot.com. It's old though. So if you wanted to read my old writing,
Yeah,
but I wrote
definitely.
a lot. So it's got, I mean, if people really cared and wanted to be super stalkery, they could read like, you know, tons of stuff that I've written, including lots of poetry and, I mean, goofy stuff too. Like, cause a lot of it was when I was grappling with being diagnosed with MS and going through that kind of the roughest years of having MS. And so there's a lot of stuff about, you know, just kind of like learning to cope with a chronic illness. And then some other dark things are in there too. But there's also some fun things. I don't know. But yeah, that's old school. But that's probably the easiest way to find some of my creative writing. And then the book by Paxton, I think it was a limited run, so I don't know if
Oh, really?
even something that people can find unless, I mean, I have a copy. And she may have extras, but you can just look at Paxton Maroney and find out if she has it. And there may be an online version. I have no idea. Honestly, she'd probably have figured that out. But anyway, that's only way I'm not into that. That's probably a long answer, but still.
Well, that is so awesome. Thank you so much for talking to me, for being here. Thank you. It was great.
Well, thank you for thinking that I was worth talking to, because I,
Oh my gosh, you're super interesting.
well, thank you.
Thanks. So if anybody wants to check you out, is it okay to link your Instagram?
Sure, it's public, might as well. I need to private one of these days, but I haven't yet. So
I know I bounce back and forth, and I don't really even know why I think it needs to be private, but
yeah, I mean, it's mostly just pictures of cats,
right.
but they're fun pictures of cats. So
They are. They're super cute cats.
also, I wanted to say hi to Desiree. She's been like leaving me little encouraging notes the whole time.
That's awesome. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for letting me interview you. And you guys have a great night. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. You have a good night too.
Thanks.
Bye.